All right, so I'm going to share my screen right now. We're going to talk about the agenda, and then we're going to go ahead on and get started with the meeting. Okay, so let me share my screen. Just give me 1 second here. When you guys see my screen, just give me a thumbs up. Okay, you should see agenda at the top of the screen. Okay. All right, very good. Okay, so this is our agenda for the day. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to just briefly state the mission of Impact 365. That's a wise thing for us to do so that those who are on the call who are not aware of what we do and who we are, they're able to learn about who we are and learn about our mission and what we stand for. Okay, so that's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to open up with that. And then we're going to follow that up with watching a 20-minute video, which is a real good informative video. We're going to watch that. After the video, we're going to have a brief Q&A session, okay, followed by testing your knowledge on the information that you watched in the 20-minute video, okay. After we test your knowledge, we're going to share ways that you can support the work that we're doing with our youth, okay, because oftentimes people want to know how can they support. So once everything is over, we'll share ways, that you can support the work that we're doing. Okay. All right, so let's get into it. I don't know what my computer will stop. Okay, here we go. So the mission of Impact 365 is to build hope, courage, and confidence in the lives of our youth through training, education, and experience to help them navigate life challenges. Okay, that is our mission. Okay, and today is a part of the education side of what we're trying to do with the mission. You're going to get educated today. You're going to get educated on leadership. You're going to get educated on politics. You're going to get educated on organization and the importance of organization. Okay, so we're gonna talk about that on this morning. So this is this 20-minute video that we're going to watch. The 20-minute video we're going to watch is the story of Fred Hampton. Now, why did I choose Fred Hampton to talk about? It's two reasons. One, because it's Black History Month, and Fred Hampton is a part of Black history. Okay. Two is because I am totally inspired by Fred Hampton. What he stood for, his wisdom at such a young age, his leadership at such a young age. Fred Hampton is someone that we can all glean from. I wish that I had the mindset of a Fred Hampton when I was his age. The guy was before his time. And he was a very strong, he was a very motivational and inspirational leader. And you're going to learn about that as we watch the video. Okay. So I want everyone, not just the kids, but I want everyone who's on the call to pay very close attention to the video, the small details in the video, the things that are said. I want you guys to pay attention to it because we're going to talk about it. We're going to discuss it. We're going to have the Q&A session, as I already stated. But most importantly, I want you guys to learn something from this brief video. Pay attention to Fred Hampton's age. Pay attention to his leadership. Pay attention to what he stood for. Pay attention to all those things, because I can tell you it's inspiring. It really is. It inspired me. When I learned about his story, it inspired me. And it goes back to what we talked about before as it relates to the essays, how I told you guys, don't just focus on the typical that you hear every year. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Sojourner Truth, Maya Angelou. You hear that every year. You got people like Fred Hampton that nobody knows anything about, but Fred Hampton was an inspiring leader in his time. Okay. So let's go ahead on and get into the video. Okay. Are you guys ready? You ready? Watch the video. Everybody ready? Give me a thumbs up. All right, let's go. Let's watch the video. Let me know if you guys hear the audio as well. Okay. You guys hear the audio?
No, sir.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry. You guys should hear it now.
December 4th, 1969. Akua Njeri was 19 years old and sleeping next to her fiancé, the Illinois Black Panther Party chairman, Fred Hampton.
The next thing I remember was someone in our room shaking Chairman Fred. Chairman, wake up, wake up. Plaster was flying off the wall. You could smell the cordite from the gunshot. If you've ever been under gunfire, 5 minutes is 5 hours. To you, it seems like forever. The shooting started back again. Then another voice unfamiliar to me said, "He's good and dead now." I knew they were talking about Chairman Fred.
Fred Hampton was murdered by his government. But before that, he was a leader in a movement practicing a new kind of activism. A movement targeted because of its power to unite people.
Marking 1964 as a historic year in race relations, on July 2nd, President Johnson signed into law the Civil Rights Act. It was the strongest...
In the 1960s, racial progress in the U.S. was at a turning point. Activists won major civil rights victories, and the era of Jim Crow laws came to an end. But at the end of the decade, there were still deep social and economic gaps for Black people across the country. Black Americans continued to face high poverty, poor housing, and unemployment, and they still had little to no political representation. These disparities and an increase in brutal police violence led to uprisings across the country. Many young Black activists grew frustrated that the changes they'd hoped for hadn't come.
It's just the opposite of being a white man. That's about the best I can abbreviate that for you.
After the police killing of an unarmed Black teen in San Francisco, two activists in Oakland, California, Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton, founded what was initially called the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. Newton had studied law and knew it was legal to carry arms in California as long as they were not concealed. The Panthers began to patrol their communities. As the movement grew, several highly publicized confrontations with police would bring about mainstream awareness of the Black Panther Party. The allegations in these confrontations were serious, but the public accounts of them were typically one-sided and shaped largely by police. Media coverage depicted party members as a caricature of Black militancy.
The Black Panther Party was portrayed as a marauding gang. They say their goal was to kill all the white people.
In reality, the Panthers did call for radical change.
What they were hoping for was a revolution to overthrow the capitalist enterprise.
But what they called revolution might not actually sound so radical today.
Focused on socialism as a way of solving economic needs. They looked to places like Canada, which always had a democratic political system, but the economic system has always been socialism. So they want a democratic socialist country here in the United States, which they saw as a more equitable, more humane system.
They released a 10-point plan for broad social reform that called for an end to police brutality and for Black employment, housing, education, and freedom from prison and jails. Chapters began forming across the country. They started to implement social programs, which they called survival programs.
The Panthers would say, put that theory into practice. If you really want to change minds, if you really want to meet the people where they are, you have to give them the services which they need.
The programs included food and clothing drives, free health clinics, and sickle cell disease testing, and were funded largely by volunteers and donations from businesses. One of their biggest programs was a free breakfast for children initiative.
Here we are living in 1966, 67, is the most wealthy nation in the world. And kids were going to school hungry, especially in African-American communities. So one of the first community service programs were free breakfast for school children.
And all the children had to do was come.
It was during this time that Akua and Jerry, then known as Deborah Johnson, met Fred Hampton.
I was a student at Rice City College, and Chairman Fred had come up to the school to speak. And he said, at the breakfast program, we feeding over 3,000 children a week. We're serious about making power to the people of reality. We're not just sitting up here jaw-jabbing and talking shit, We about work. And I said, damn, we serious about this business.
Fred Hampton grew up in Maywood, Illinois, just west of downtown Chicago. He became president of his local NAACP Youth Council in 1967, at 19 years old. Shortly after, he was recruited by a founder of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party.
That you can jail a revolutionary, but you can't jail a revolution. Right.
Because of his charismatic skills, he quickly rise to the top of the crop.
Here he is at age 21, building and leading the Illinois chapter Black Panther Party.
Soon after they met, and Jerry and Hampton became a couple.
Anybody that has met him or heard him speak, they say he wasn't bullshit. He was for real.
You got to understand that people have to pay the price for people. If you dare to struggle, you dare to win. If you dare not to struggle, then goddamn it, you don't deserve to win. Let me say peace to you if you're willing to fight for it.
Chicago in particular was a place where the party's ideals especially resonated. It was then the second largest American city, and due to decades of discriminatory policies, also one of the most segregated. Chicago's mayor at the time, Richard J. Daley, opposed neighborhood integration. And in the 1950s, the city had begun to redevelop certain neighborhoods, pushing low-income residents out and into densely packed, high-rise public housing in already overcrowded neighborhoods. Black people were pushed primarily to the south and west side of Chicago.
At Thibodeau Regional, we're bringing advanced heart care to the region, so the beat goes on.
Welcome to the Undertone Podcast, where we talk about all things creepy.
We'll be listening.
A large Puerto Rican population was here in Lincoln Park, and poor white people were concentrated here in Uptown. These groups all faced similar problems.
They all had dilapidated schools. They all had dilapidated homes. They were all being drafted into Vietnam. Very few of those communities had health care.
In 1969, Hampton led the Panthers towards an unexpected alliance, a coalition of activists working across racial lines against a corrupt city government that threatened their communities.
We're going to fight racism, not racism, but we're going to fight in solidarity.
What they had in common was their poverty. So they was building a revolution based on class solidarity that transcends race, that they all had the same hell to pay.
Hampton named the group the Rainbow Coalition. It included the Black Panthers, a Puerto Rican group called the Young Lords, and a group called the Young Patriots, made up of largely poor white migrants from Appalachia who had moved to Chicago seeking economic opportunity.
We don't hate the motherfucking white people, we hate the oppressor, whether he be white, black, brown, or yellow. So we got to know that.
I don't mean sing Kumbaya and make a quilt. I'm talking about bringing them together on common things they can unite on. Not everything, but who can say that children do not deserve to have a healthy meal?
We work with anybody and form coalition with anybody that has revolution on their mind. We're not a racist organization because we understand that racism is an excuse used for capitalism.
Hampton and other Panthers helped the Young Lords and Young Patriots launch their own social programs. They organized protests together. And it was working. Members were traveling across the country to organize Rainbow Coalition chapters.
Particularly where Black Panther chapters were, but also in these rural white communities as well, to bring the revolution to bear. This blows people's minds. These people are not supposed to get along, but here they are operating as brothers of the struggles, as revolutionaries against the capitalist structure. And that was the threat to the state at the local level, but also at the national level.
In 1968, the FBI had sent around this internal memo. It outlined goals to prevent the coalition of militant Black nationalist groups and prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify and electrify the militant Black nationalist movement. It wasn't written about Hampton specifically, but by 1969,
Chairman Fred Hampton was the one that fit the bill.
The revolution was in the air. And the ways in which the Panthers was able to transcend those racial lines, especially the charismatic leadership of one like Fred Hampton, they saw him as a greater threat even than Martin Luther King or Malcolm X ever was.
In one FBI memo about the Black Panthers' breakfast program, they claimed their real purpose was to poison minds with anti-white propaganda and indoctrinate youngsters in hate and violence.
The FBI, under the leadership of J. Edgar Hoover, had deemed the Black Panther Party as the number one threat to the internal security of this country.
The FBI operated a counterintelligence program called COINTELPRO. It was a program that targeted dissident political groups in the U.S. Their methods typically went outside the law.
They were using tactics such as assassination, discrediting false narratives. They were falsely putting people in prison and exile, which were all illegal.
Several Black Panthers were killed or imprisoned, including the party co-founders. In Chicago, the party was also targeted by Mayor Daley and the Chicago police.
Our office was burned down at least 3 times. People would disappear. You never see their bodies again.
Before you go to bed tonight, say, I am a revolutionary. Make that the last word. In case you don't wake up, then somebody might believe it and you might end up in what they call a revolutionary happy hunting grounds.
Hampton, a rising star at just 21 years old, knew he was a target too. He'd been arrested in 1968 for allegedly robbing an ice cream truck and handing out $71 of ice cream. In 1969, he was sentenced to 2 to 5 years in prison. He appealed and was released on bond, but lost the appeal. He'd have to return to prison by December 6th. On December 4th, around 4 a.m., 14 Chicago police officers arrived outside Hampton's apartment on Chicago's west side. Inside, Hampton and Jerry and 7 other Panthers were asleep.
I was very pregnant, and the first thing I remember was Chairman Fred had fell asleep while talking on the phone. The next thing I remember was someone in our room
Started shaking the chair.
Chairman, wake up, the pigs are vamping. And I'm seeing Chairman Fred look up, and then he laid his head back down real slow.
At Thibodeau Regional, we're bringing advanced heart care to the region, so the beat goes on.
Welcome to the Undertone Podcast, where we talk about all things creepy.
We'll be listening.
Officers kicked open the door and shot Mark Clark, a visitor from another party chapter. They shot a sleeping 18-year-old named Brenda Harris. Then they shot in the direction of Hampton's bed.
The mattress is just going. You can feel the bullets going into it.
I had moved over on top of Chairman Fred because there was shooting into our mattress. The person that had come into the room kept shouting, stop shooting, we have a pregnant sister in here. Eventually, the shooting stopped.
And Jerry was forced into the kitchen when she heard another voice.
Someone said he's barely alive.
He'll barely make it. I assume they were talking about Chairman Fred. Pig said he's good and dead now.
As they took me out and jammed a revolver to my stomach as I was handcuffed behind my back. I didn't look towards our bedroom because I didn't know what I would see or how I would respond.
The police fired nearly 100 shots. Fred Hampton and Mark Clark were dead. The 7 surviving Panthers were arrested. And police smiled as they removed Hampton's body from the scene. The Chicago police and the state's attorney's office quickly shaped the narrative to call it a gunfight, a battle, and a shootout.
Officers involved in the raid testified that they were fired on from 4 different rooms in the apartment by shotgun.
And before I could get past the threshold, there were 3 shots fired from the rear bedroom.
They played back a story that you could not even fathom. They gave a fictional account of what happened. Again, vilifying the Black Panther Party.
I mean, they were firing at police.
Yes, sir. We saw the shots coming out of the 2 bedrooms.
This attack by the Black Panthers on the police clearly demonstrates the true character of the Black Panther Party.
But experts and lawyers hired by the Panthers, along with other journalists, inspected the crime scene. The Panthers even opened the apartment so that anyone could examine it. And a drastically different picture emerged. It was clear that the police had fired unprovoked. Of the nearly 100 shots fired, only one possible shot could have come from a Panther's gun, likely from Mark Clark at the front door. The bullet holes that the police said came from Black Panthers were nail heads. Later, it also emerged that the FBI had assisted Chicago police with the raid. The FBI had an informant within the Black Panther Party named William O'Neill, who had become chief of security and Hampton's bodyguard. O'Neill had provided the FBI with a hand-drawn floor plan of the apartment, which the FBI then gave to Chicago police. And evidence strongly suggests that before the raid, O'Neill had drugged Hampton. In the years after Hampton's assassination, the police and the FBI continued to imprison dozens of party members across the country. The official Black Panther Party would continue to exist until 1982, but membership decreased dramatically, and it would never be the same.
And I hope that each one of you will be able to die in the international proletarian revolutionary struggle, even be able to live in it. And I think that struggle is going to come. Why don't you live for the people? Why don't you struggle for the people? Why don't you die for the people?
Fred Hampton wanted revolution. Those in power wanted to destroy him and what he stood for. But they weren't totally successful.
Chairman Fred lives. You know what I'm saying? Through the military assault, through the destruction of the party as an organization itself, you know, by the state, the legacy of the party is still here.
Today, the work of Fred Hampton is alive through some of the same programs that marked him as a threat.
Many of the programs that the Panthers created are now staples of our society. We didn't have free breakfast in schools prior to the Black Panther Party's free breakfast program. Those free clinics, almost every major college campus got a free legal aid clinic. The ways in which sickle cell testing is now respected as a disease by the CDC and others. None of that stuff existed before the party. I think that's revolutionary.
The history of the Black Panther Party is going toe-to-toe with this government will never die. Never die.
Thanks for watching this video. If you want to learn more about Fred Hampton, there's an amazing 1971 documentary called The Murder of Fred Hampton, available to stream via the Chicago Film Archives at the link in the description. They also have a film called American Revolution 2, which documents the work of the Rainbow Coalition in action and the many activists who helped to spearhead the movement. Thanks again for watching our piece, and stay tuned for one more episode in this season of Missing Chapter.
Woo! So, after watching that video, hold on one second. Yeah, so after watching that video, I want to know what you guys thought about what you heard. I'm curious. You know, as I stated before we watched the video, I am greatly inspired by Fred Hampton and what he did at such a young age. He was truly a revolutionary. The man was not average. He was way above average to do what he did at 21 years old. So let me know you guys' thoughts. I want to hear it. I want to know your takeaway from what you heard. So please share. Doesn't matter who go first. It doesn't matter if it's a kid or an adult. I really want to hear what you guys thought about what you just heard.
Fred Hampton's a great man. I encourage the parents to let the children watch. Was it The Traitor and the Messiah? It just came out maybe 2 years ago.
Judas and the Black
Judas and the
Messiah.
Messiah. Yeah, and the Black Messiah. They should really be encouraged to let their children watch that because it actually really goes into greater detail of what happened to him. Uh, just her saying he couldn't lift his head off the pillow. He was drugged and he was betrayed. And it's kind of been our story through all the time. We got a revolutionary. The one thing I wanted to say is to the kids on the call, even the adults, look up the words capitalism, socialism, revolutionary. Learn those definitions because they use that in the words today, in the media today. And if you don't understand what that means, they'll just say, "Oh, Barack Obama was a socialist or this and that." Like, learn a definition of what that is. For when they say those things, you know what they're talking about. Because I struggled with that for a while too. I was like, man, why are they calling them that? Capitalism. Like, those are the words that you need to learn and understand to see what they're saying, and then you can say, well, that doesn't apply to that group or that particular thing, because they use those words a lot to mislead you by thinking the good guys are the bad guys. So that's what I wanted to say about that.
I wanted to add to what Daniel just said, that the word says that there's nothing new under the sun, and it's so true, because just like he mentioned, that the government would always try to make it appear that they're the good guys and Black folks are the bad guys. And what Fred Hampton stood for, the government didn't even highlight the changes that the Black Panthers were trying to do it within the community, because of the oppression that was going on and that's still going on today. Like, they didn't even highlight that. They just highlighted that, you have a group of Black people and the fear of being overpowered by educated Black people that are willing to die for what they believe in. That's the real threat.
Black organization is viewed as a threat. Okay. What we're doing right now is viewed as a threat. I want you guys to know that, because especially you kids, as you grow older, you're going to learn that there are some cultures, and I'm not saying everybody in those cultures, but I am saying a lot of people within cultures hate to see Blacks come together and organize. Okay. Fred Hampton was somebody who wasn't a racist. He plainly stated, I'm not a racist. I just want better for my community. I want better for the people around me. I want better housing. I want better education for our people. And I want the imprisonment of my people to stop. That's all he wanted. So he named an organization called the Rainbow Coalition. Now, why was it called a Rainbow Coalition? Because he was uniting people across races, the different colors, the whites, the Hispanics, and the Blacks, coming together under the Rainbow Coalition to bring change in their community and ultimately change the world. That's what they was trying to do. So they had chapters that was forming all across the United States of America. Okay. Fred Hampton died at 21 years old. So I'm gonna ask you this question, because I hope this light a fire under somebody, not just the kids, but also the adults. What are you going to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish at the age that you are accomplished? at the age you are? What are you trying to accomplish? Because I was hugely inspired by Fred Hampton because of who he was at such a young age. Man, at 21, I had nothing but foolishness on my mind. So watching something like this about Fred Hampton, it makes you say, man, I got to get myself together. I got to get myself together, because if you got somebody who is influential like that at 21, if you got somebody who is mentally stable like that at 21, goal oriented like that at 21, man, I got to get myself together. I'm behind. So I want you guys to apply the Fred Hampton mindset, okay, to your life. What goals can you set? What revolutionary goals can you set to make a huge difference and to make a stamp for your last name? Whatever your last name is. My last name is Francis. We're living for our last name. I'm living for Francis. I want my legacy to mean something. I want my last name to mean something. Right now, Fred Hampton last name means something. And he died at 21. Everything you saw in that video was accomplished at the age of 21. That's when he died. And he was so feared and he was so much of a threat by his government that they decided to take him out. They killed him. And when they killed Fred Hampton, the movement went down. Why did the movement went down? Why did it go down? Because Fred Hampton was the motivation behind keeping people together. He was the motivation. He was the influential leader. He was the one that was passionate about getting this thing off the ground and making it happen. You heard what his lady said in the video. She said when you heard him speak, you knew he wasn't playing. He was serious about it, right? And how many times I've said on this call here, I'm serious about Impact 365, boy, because I realize the information that we're putting out, although it's not exactly in line with Fred Hampton, we're doing the same thing. We're trying to educate the youth to keep y'all from killing each other, to keep y'all knowledgeable about what's going on, to expose y'all to different things so that y'all don't be walking around here unaware, okay? You guys need to be the best and the brightest, because as a Black person, unfortunately, things are a lot harder for a Black person, because there's the things that they talked about in that video still exist today, like Brother Daniel just said. They still try to minimize who you are. They still try to overlook you. They still try to hinder you from progress. There's still housing discrimination. There's still the discrediting that goes on. We saw last week ago the President of America put out a video of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as apes. And you have not just Blacks, but whites as well that say, oh, well, you didn't see the full video. I don't need to see the full video. He put out exactly what he wanted to put out in the story, period. But we as a culture need to be wise enough to see what's going on. We need to know the play. Okay, we need to not be ignorant and say, you know what, man, we need to organize. We need to be serious about what we're doing, what we're talking about, and be intentional about educating our youth. Do we hate anybody? Of course not. We don't hate anybody. But I do want you guys to be educated and aware.
Byron is so funny because they will point blank say it in subtle ways that we choose not to hear. But for them, ignorance is an asset.
That's right.
And they don't only exploit that for Black people, they do it for impoverished white people as well. And that doesn't mean that we want to go around going, oh, we hate you because of all the oppression and chaos that you cause. We don't. When I'm a Christian, when I say I'm a Christian, I mean it from the perspective of I love my fellow human. I appreciate humanity. I want to work for and toward goodness. Having said that, I'm not going to lie down and watch you oppress my people and also oppress me because they just don't know any better. Amen. And for the next generation, my heart breaks when I see the things that this man is allowed to do. Because understand, he's one man, but there is a machine behind him.
That's right.
And even though he's dumb enough to be the face of all of this, because he don't care, all his God is money. And as long as his God continues to serve him, he'll do whatever is demanded of him. But this is, and it's not that loud a voice. It's not that big a coalition that they have. They're just very loud and very powerful.
That's right.
So I can't encourage young people enough. You don't understand the value of your education. You don't understand the rooms that an education will allow you to sit in, and you don't understand how much you can subtly influence those around you by walking in integrity and pride and not compromising even when it's hard.
Yeah,
You're so right, Ms. Lawson.
yes,
That's
you're
great
right,
what you just
100%.
said. Uh, to the adults and the kids on the call, Byron said, "Where do we start?" I think you have to start with you have to take it upon yourself to self-educate yourself. I didn't hear about Fred Hampton until I was in my 30s, because, like Byron said, the history books, you got like a little short excerpt of Harriet Tubman, Martin Luther King. They didn't even put Malcolm X in there because they thought he was too radical. As an adult, and as for the kids, I encourage you to go to a library, go on the internet, and there's certain books that you just have to read. Uh, the autobiography of Malcolm X. Like, you need to learn about our history before we can even move forward, because that's the inspiration you're gonna need. Because now they're not telling us, the people is the movies that were made after certain people, but there's a whole plethora of our history of people trying to take a stand and do right. Nat Turner, all these people, Sojourner Truth, that that are not the popular ones. And you got to self-educate because they're not putting it out there for us to see. And that's what we sought with this. My grandfather always told us, you got to learn where you came from before you can start taking some steps forward. Then that's what's gonna open your eyes to, okay, this is what we've been through. And then you're gonna look at, like, certain books that you read are gonna make you. It's gonna a light gonna click, and you're gonna say, "Man, I need to do better." That's the motivation you need. Just adults, man, just get a book, get the right books. I'm gonna put together a list of stuff that I think every black person needs to read, because there's just certain things out there that we just need to know, and we need to know where we came from, and we need to know what to look out for, and we need to educate ourselves. We really, really do. Byron, what I always say, ignorant is it's not a bad word. It sounds bad, but ignorant just means you do not know.
Yeah.
We use it negatively, but that's the true definition. The simplest definition of ignorant is you haven't been exposed to it, you do not know. And they will use your ignorance against you for just words and how they act. And that's why we have to educate ourselves. You know, uh, lately you just think how much time you spend on social media, how much time you spend on your phone. I was just telling my daughter she's having a little issue with math. And I said, she came up with the thing where she said, well, we're doing something at school today and we're baking brownies for 2 hours. I said, why don't you take one of those hours, that 1 hour, and concentrate more on your math? And you still got an hour to bake your brownies, but now you helping yourself because you need help in your math. Think about what we do in a 24-hour period. Just devote an hour to educating yourself or trying to figure out better, even if it's got to be sitting still and praying. Just got to do stuff like that. That's all I'm asking everybody to encourage themselves to do, and you're gonna be better behind it.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for sharing that. Alex, I see your hand up. I'm gonna come to you. I want to piggyback on what Daniel said and encourage you kids to read. Read, 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 read. I'm gonna be transparent and tell you that when I was young, man, I hated to read. I was never a reader, didn't want to read. And I had people telling me, man, you ought to read, man, you ought to read. But guess what, man? I just did not want to read. But now that's all I do is read. That's all I do is read. I just ordered a book on, and I received it on yesterday. I'm gonna tell you, matter of fact, I'm gonna show it to you. Here's the book here. It's by Benjamin Crump. I just got it and I started reading it last night. It's called Worse Than a Lie. Okay, Worse Than a Lie by Benjamin Crump. Now I'm gonna tell you why I ordered this book, because Ben Crump is somewhat of a historical figure to us. Now he's still living. When we think about people making history, we think about somebody who's dead. Well, Ben Carson is alive and he's fighting for blacks' civil rights today. And I don't know any other attorney that's fighting for civil rights as much as he is, because he's on the front line. He's always in the media. He done fought for Trayvon Martin. He done fought for George Floyd. He done fought for countless other people. So he's on the front lines fighting for the injustices that happen to black folks. So I brought his book. Why did I buy his book? Because I want to learn. I want to learn about his thought process. I want to learn about his leadership. I want to learn what makes him tick. Man, what motivates you to put yourself out there like that in such a passionate way when you are now a target for what you're doing? I want to learn about that. That inspires me. You know, I done heard people say in the past, and I agree with it 100%, you don't have a fate if it's not something worth dying for. If you ain't willing to die for your fate, guess what? You don't have a fate. You don't have a fate. If you ain't willing to die for it, you don't truly believe it. I heard somebody say that and I said, whoo, I agree. So now the question is, are you willing to die for what you believe? Nobody not telling you go out there and die. Nobody ain't saying that. But what I'm saying is, you don't have a fate if it ain't worth dying for. I believe in Jesus. And if somebody come up to me and say, look, you believe in Jesus? If you say yes, I'm going to kill you. Well, guess what? I'm going to die. I'm going to tell you right now, I will die because I'm going to die for my faith. That's what I believe. I believe in Jesus, and I believe that he is the one who is captain of my soul. And I believe that if I confess him and somebody take my life, I'm going to meet him, and I'm going to heaven, and I'm going to spend eternity. And I believe that. That is my fate. So if somebody take my life for what I believe, oh, well. Now, what do you believe? And are you willing to die for it? So I like reading books like Benjamin Crump and all of the books that I've read before, the spiritual books and the motivational books, because it inspires me. It helps me to stay on fire. Otherwise, you go stale. I want to know what make these guys tick. What make Benjamin Crump do what he's doing? He's a target, but he's doing it for you and for us, black people. What you got, brother Alex? You got to be brief, man, because we got to move on to the true and false question we have for the kids. What you got?
Gotcha. I'm reading this book right now. It's called Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. So this how it look. Y'all can see it. Can y'all see it?
Yeah, yes, I can see it, Coach.
It's called Breaking the Chains of Psychological Slavery. Naeem Akbar. It was suggested to me by my barber. His name is Stephen Lee and Kenner. His wife, actually. So I was talking to her about kind of getting into speaking and some things like that, and she suggested this for me to, kind of get my mind right. But one of the main thing that's sticking with me, I'm reading it right now. I'm reading it right now, and the main thing that's sticking with me is one of the things from slavery that is still prevalent today is black people, and not just black people, I'm sure it's everybody, we look at work as a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? And we come into it with a negative mindset. So that's why it's important to get to the kids early, because the initial thought of something is gonna be their first outlook on it. That's gonna be the way they react to it. If you tell them school is good and you bring them up, learning and things like that, doing ABCs, doing their work with them, and it's looked at as a positive thing, fun, that's gonna change the outlook on it rather than them looking at it as something negative and I don't want to do no work. And I've been in a situation I didn't want to do work, but my mother, my father, my aunties, uncles came up. We came up, learning like that, and it stuck with me. You know what I mean? I was a good kid. I think I'm a good person. Try to be. But I was smart coming up, and it stuck with me for a while until you started doing the rebellious things. But it's important to get to the kids early, and that was the main thing that stuck with me. We look at work as a negative thing rather than a positive thing that'll get us to what we need to be.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree, Coach. You're right, and I say all the time that we have to be an attractive organization for what you just stated, man. We can't come off as condemning to the kids. We can't come off as boring to the kids. We have to be exciting, and that's the reason why, I try to be passionate about everything that we do. And we also try to make sure we get the kids involved in outside activities. Last month we went bowling. We had a phenomenal time. So we have to be attractive. We're not going to draw the youth in being boring. We just not. But we're not boring. I'm not boring. I'm 46 years old, but I consider myself young. I consider myself exciting. I consider myself fun. I know how to laugh. I know how to have a good time. That's what attract the kids. But if kids look at you as old, yeah, man, he old, man. I don't want to go, man, he old. They're not coming. So we have to be attractive, and we are attractive. And guess what? We're gonna always be attractive. That's not gonna ever stop. So I agree with your point, man. Look, let's move on. We got 8 minutes left. Let's move on here because I do want to get to the true and false. I want you guys to participate, kids. I want you to participate in the true and false. Okay. Here's a quiz. I want to test your knowledge to make sure that you understand everything that we talked about with the video and also what we shared after the video. So I want you guys to participate. So here's the first question. Fred Hampton was murdered by a close friend. Is that true or false?
False.
That is false. Who was he murdered by?
One of the policemen. The I forgot from what. Like it was the police, but I forgot from what state.
It don't matter state. It don't matter state.
Cops into who with FBI.
It don't matter state. He was murdered by his government. That's the bottom line. He was murdered by his government. Now, we don't have time to get into it, but I can tell you, for you to be murdered by your government, that is mind blowing. Mind blowing. We may talk about Black Wall Street because Black Wall Street was bombed by the government, but generally speaking, Fred Hampton was murdered by his government because he was viewed as a threat. Okay, so that's the correct answer. The correct answer is false. He wasn't murdered by a close friend. He was murdered by his government. Fred Hampton was an activist that was trying to unite people. Is that true or false?
True.
True. Very good, Mario. Very good, Tyron. Fred Hampton was trying to help fill the gaps of high poverty, poor housing, and unemployment. Is that true or false?
True.
True.
True. Very good. Y'all some smart kids, man. Y'all must be a part of Impact 365. Fred Hampton became a part of the Black Panther Party, which worked to put an end to police brutality, Black unemployment, inefficient housing, lack of education, and freedom from prison and jails. Is that true or false?
True.
Any of the kids? Is that true or false? Fred Hampton became a part of the Black Panther Party, which worked to put an end to police brutality, Black unemployment, inefficient housing, lack of education, and freedom from prison and jails. Is that true or false? Mario, is that true or false?
True.
That's true. That's true. That was the Black Panther mission. The Black Panther mission was to end police brutality, Black unemployment, inefficient housing, lack of education, and freedom from prison. That was their mission, pretty much. Okay. Fred Hampton was a part of an organization that had a free breakfast program for school kids.
True.
True or false?
True.
True. Very good. Tyron, is that true or false? Like Tyron stepped away. All right, let's continue. Fred Hampton considered himself a revolutionary. Is that true or false? Fred Hampton considered himself a revolutionary.
True.
True. Very good, Coach Alex. Very good. Mario, is that true or false? Fred Hampton considered himself a revolutionary.
True.
True. Very good. Those that heard Fred Hampton speak thought he was serious about the movement he was a part of. They thought he was serious. Is that true or false?
True. True.
Absolutely. They thought he was serious. He ain't playing around. He was serious about the movement. He was serious about what he was trying to do. Okay. You guys should have learned something from that. Fred Hampton named a group called the Rainbow Coalition, which worked across racial lines against a corrupt government that threatened their communities. Is that true or false?
True. True.
True.
True. True. Very good. Fred Hampton was a racist.
False.
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 Very good. False. Fred Hampton wasn't a racist. He was trying to unite people. But that unification was viewed as a threat by his own government, and his own government killed him. It wasn't just a state, but the federal government worked with the state and killed Fred Hampton. The federal government worked with the local police department in his area to kill Fred Hampton. The government deemed Fred Hampton and his coalition as the #1 threat to the security of the country.
True. True. True.
That's right. Fred Hampton was viewed as the #1 threat to security in the country. That's how much we're threatened when we organize. That's why it's important for us to organize. We view it as a threat. But we're more powerful together than we are separated. The federal, I put FB, I don't know why I put FB, but the federal government operated a counterintelligence program called Intel Pro, which targeted political groups and used unlawful tactics to assassinate, discredit, and falsely put people in prison. Is that true or false?
True. True. True.
That's right. That's true. I know I wanted to put FBI. That's what it is. I forgot the I on that. But the FBI operated a counterintelligence program, and they used that program to assassinate, to discredit, and to falsely imprison blacks back in the days. That's what it did. That's how Fred Hampton lost his life. All right, this is the last set of questions here. The police broke into Fred's house and fired nearly 100 shots, killing him. True or false?
True. True.
True. Very good. The remaining people in the house were allowed to go free. True or false?
False. True.
False.
Okay. Mario said true. That answer is false. The people that were inside the house with Fred Hampton who did not die were brought to jail, brought to prison. Okay. It's a messed up situation. The officers were smiling as they carried Fred's body out of the house. True or false?
True. True.
True. It was happy to kill him. Happy to kill him. So with that type of information, hopefully that inspire you kids. You know, everybody on this call is black. Hopefully inspire you black kids to realize that you're not treated like the same as your counterparts. You got to be better, man. Your attitude got to be better. Your behavior got to be better. Your grades got to be better. All of that helps you to have a successful future. Because as you saw, although Fred Hampton was a positive individual trying to unite people, he was viewed as a threat. The officers told the truth about the encounter that happened in the house. They told the truth about it. Everything they said happened actually happened.
False.
False.
Very good. That's false. So let me tell you the link between what happened with Fred Hampton back then and what goes on now. Okay. When they killed Fred Hampton, immediately the police department, they get with the press and they come up with a lie, a story that they're going to tell to the people. All right. That still goes on today. And I'm going to give you an example of it. If you want to go look it up, you can. Breonna Taylor. That was a false narrative. Okay. Who else? The list goes on with false narratives that happen all the time with black people. And the most recent one we've seen actually happened with a white person, Alex Preddy. Alex Preddy, the government killed him in the street. ICE, go look it up. ICE killed him in the street and immediately went in the media and said he was a bad person. He came there to kill a bunch of people. He was a terrorist. That's what they said about him. Complete lie, but that's what they said. The FBI had an informant that provided a handwritten drawing of Fred's apartment, which assisted the Chicago police in the raid.
True.
Fred Hampton was betrayed by a black informant. He infiltrated the Black Panther Party. He betrayed Fred Hampton to the federal government, and ultimately he was responsible for drugging him. They said that's why Fred Hampton couldn't pick his head up. When his girlfriend was saying, "Hey man, hey, the police are here," he couldn't raise his head up. He was weak. He was lethargic from the drugs that was put into his body before. Okay, before that happened. So that's why he couldn't move. When the cops came in, he couldn't move. He was drugged up. It was all a plot, and he was set up by an informant. And that informant was black, unfortunately, betrayed by his own kind. And guess what? That still goes on today as well. People are betrayed by their own kind. It's a messed up situation, but it is. Even when you think about the Donald Trump situation, showing Barack Obama and Michelle Obama as apes, guess what? You got even black people that condone that. That's how stupid some people are. They condone it. Oh, well, you didn't see the full video. I don't have to see the full video. What was shown was exactly what was shown. And we got to be smart enough to know how to discern those things. All right. Prior to the raid, evidence suggests that the informant drugged Fred, causing him to be lethargic during the raid. True or false?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, it's on the screen. Prior to the raid, evidence suggests that the informant drugged Fred, causing him to be lethargic during the raid.
True.
True.
True. That's right. He couldn't move. During the raid, he couldn't move because he was drugged up. He was lethargic. So the evidence suggests that the informant is the one that was responsible for drugging him before the raid. And it was all intentional. It was a setup. So they say, you know what, we're going to drug him. And you got to go, like Daniel said, you got to go watch Judas and the Black Messiah because they do a good job portraying what actually happened. So he was drugged because they knew that morning, 4:00 in the morning, they was going to his house to kill him. And that's what they did. They drug him up and they went to his house at 4:00 in the morning, his apartment, 4:00 in the morning, and took his life, putting over almost 100 shots into the building, into the house. Okay. Any questions, any comments? Anybody have any questions, any comments?
No, sir.
Okay. Nobody have any questions or any comments? These are some ways you can support the work we're doing. You can support by attending our weekly calls. We have calls every week, every Friday at 6 o'clock. Your participation is appreciated. We love to see when people are on the calls. It shows support. It shows unity. It shows organization. That's what we're talking about on today. You can attend our trainings. Right now, you're on an educational training. We're talking about Fred Hampton. We touched on leadership, Fred Hampton's leadership. We talk about politics. He was killed by his government. All of those type of things, is what we talked about today. You got educated and trained on. So it was different layers that we hit on today. Thirdly, you can volunteer at our outside experiences every month. Our goal is to go out with the kids to have an outdoor experience. Right now, we have an experience coming up on March 28th, and that is the Whitney Plantation. That's where we're going. If you don't know, now you know. We're going to the Whitney Plantation on March 28th. You want to be there. You don't want to miss it. We're going to do a guided tour, and you're going to get educated on your history. Okay, you don't want to miss that. I can tell you, you don't want to miss it. You want to be there. And lastly, you can make a one-time donation or a recurring donation to the organization to support the work that we're doing. To make that recurring donation or that one-time donation, you can go on our website, is weimpact365.org. 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 There's a button down below that says donate. You can click on that button. It's going to take you to another page where you're able to make a donation to support the work that we're doing. All right. Is there any questions, any comments about anything before we wrap up? What you guys thought about the story and everything that was shared today?
The story was awesome. I agree with Daniel. I think everyone should go watch Judas and the Messiah, the movie, to have a deeper understanding. And Byron, check your chat box.
Okay.
I enjoyed the story because although they was going through struggles, it was like they was going through struggles to help the future lives of Black people.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I want to connect it to the end.
All right. Anybody else want to comment or share what they thought about the video and the presentation today? Were you inspired? Was anybody inspired, kid or adults, inspired by the life of Fred Hampton?
No, I think it was definitely inspiring about, just how young he was and just not to wait to a certain age and, you know what I mean, to think you might want to do it at that time.
Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else is inspired? I want to comment on what they heard today, what we talked about today.
Yeah, I'd say too, at such a young age, you had such an impactful influence on today's times that they won't credit him for, but he literally led by example. And what he believed in, he truly died for. And that's just a testimony to the man he was.
Awesome. Awesome. I agree. All right. With that, we're going to close out. We're going to close out.
I just want to, excuse me.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback on, forgot your name, my bad. Who wrote in the chat just to, just about, living for, well, would you live for me? You know what I mean? And just to go about it, I mean, I don't want to make it sound bad, but thinking ahead, if we were to grow to that size, to go about it a different way, because if we're seen and we're followed, obviously, but it's a repeating thing where our leaders are getting seen, and it has to be it got to be trust. It got to be people got to be felt out. You know what I mean? To see their true intentions, to see how they fight through adversity, and able to be trusted. You know what I mean? Because our leaders getting up there, being seen and making change in the world, but being taken out. You know what I mean? So we always get to the threshold, and it's a downfall from there. So just to think about going about it a different way.
Man, what you just said was a mouthful, Coach. And let me tell you why. Because you're right. The people who fought for the things that we're talking about, like Fred Hampton, Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King, all of those people, they old or they dead. Okay. But that's the reason why we have to inspire the next generation. That's the reason why them kids need to be on the call. That's the reason why TJ need to be on the call. That's the reason why Tyron, Hunter, Avery, all those kids need to be on the call, and others need to be on the call. How are we going to inspire the next generation if they're not on the call? You tell me. It ain't gonna happen. Yeah. The reason there is a Fred Hampton is because he had people that he was inspired by. Well, if them kids ain't on the call, who's inspiring them? I can tell you, ain't nobody inspiring. They're going to school here and done stuff for 8 hours, then they're coming home, do homework, and then they're going back the next day and do the same thing all over again. So the people who were a part of this conversation were inspired because now they know the life of Fred Hampton, and it's inspiring. And say, man, that guy was only 21, and look at what he accomplished. He was a he was an encourager. He was a motivator. He was a uniter. Well, the reason why the kids are killing each other today because they're not hearing the type of message that we're talking about today. Okay, they're not on the call. So how you going to inspire somebody if they don't hear the message? People get inspired by hearing the message. They're on the call, well, that's different. But if they're not here, how are we going to inspire the next generation? Because to your point, they're dying. The old people who fought for civil rights, they're dying. But where are the next leaders? Where are they? We're supposed to inspire the next leaders. We're leaders, but who are we inspiring to be the next leaders after us? If they're not on the call, it ain't gonna happen.
Yes,
so hopefully that inspire you to tell people get their butt on the call. Hey, look, you need to be on the call, man. What we're talking about is gonna help you. It's gonna inspire you. It's gonna motivate you. And it's gonna encourage you. That's why I say it all the time. People need to be on the call. Don't take this lightly, man. This is a time to grow. This is a time to get motivated. This is the time to get on fire, man. We need some people on fire to do the right thing and to cause change in our community. That's what we need. All right, we over time. Before I close out, I want to mention, Anitra told me to mention this, and I'm glad she did because I didn't think about it, but we're being nominated today for a community award. Impact 365 is, and man, I'm excited for it. We're nominated. We haven't won anything, but I feel confident that we're going to win because we're doing the work, and that is something for us to be proud of. So we're going to find out today because we're going to the award ceremony. It starts at 12 o'clock. So we'll be able to let you guys know if we won the award for Impact 365. And man, look, that's going to be a wonderful time for us to rejoice and to be excited, man, that you are a part of an organization that's actually doing something. We're being seen, we're being noticed, and we're being recognized. And it's all because of who's on this call today, the people. It's not about us, it's about the people. Like Fred Hampton said, it's about the people. He was a revolutionary. It's about the people. It ain't about us. It ain't about me. It's about the people. What are we going to do about people killing each other every day? What are we going to do about it? He was a revolutionary. And I tell you, man, my mindset aligns so much with Fred Hampton. It really does. I identify with him a whole lot. I feel like I'm a revolutionary. I do. I want to see change, and I'm serious about it. Just like that lady said, when you heard Fred Hampton speak, you knew he was serious. He wasn't bullshitting. Well, guess what? I talk the same way because I'm serious. I'm serious about what we're doing. I'm serious about this organization. I'm serious about what we're trying to do and where we headed. I'm serious about it. I ain't bullshit. So I hope that inspires you. All right.
Yeah.
Mario, do you know the Our Father prayer?
Yes.
Oh, very good, man. So Mario, what I'm going to let you do is I'm going to let you close us out with the Our Father prayer. Can you do that for us?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mario. Okay, we're waiting on you whenever you're ready.
Nice. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us our trespasses, that we forgive that trespass against us. Lead us not to temptations, for deliver us from evil. Thy kingdom, power, glory, forever, ever. Amen.
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 Thank you, Mario.
I love you,
You're
man.
welcome.
All
Y'all have a
right,
good
guys.
day. That's a
Have a
wrap.
great day. Impact today. Impact somebody's life today.
Amen.
Enjoy yourself.